Last night, a homeless man came up to me and asked, "Would you like to donate to the United Negro Pizza Fund?" I laughed so hard I gave the guy a couple bucks. What's the best way you have seen beggars ask for money? A homeless guy came up to me and my friends and bet $1 that he could guess our birthdays and be correct within 4 days. After we accepted the challenge, he guessed Wednesday. We paid the man. I've had the same thing happen. He also said, "I bet I can tell where you got your shoes, on your feet." There is a guy who sits next to a well-known concert venue in Cincinnati. He has a sign that reads, "Give me some money or I'll kick you in the face." The man has no legs. When I saw the sign I made a weird face, and then looked at him and made eye contact. He immediately burst out laughing. Then he takes out one of his preserved legs and throws it at you, the foot hitting your face. There was a panhandler that I regularly saw at the 34th Street 6th Ave subway line. He was dressed neatly and would ask people, as they entered the station, if they needed directions anywhere. This was in the mid-90s, so pre-Google Maps and GPS. This man knew everything about how to get anywhere in Manhattan and the boroughs, down to individual store signs to use as landmarks, and would often suggest local shops to tourist groups. He was a frickin' genius. You need to go to San Francisco. In the Embarcadero there is the Bushman. He is this black guy who sits on a milk crate with 2 branches with leaves on it. He holds them to his face and when people walk by he opens them up and says, "Blah." He scares the crap out of people. What is funny is that you can see him from a mile away, but he gets people all the time. He must make a fortune. I know I have given him at least $20 over the years. Bushman rules. I once heard him confront a chick after taking a picture of him. "Hey, you wouldn't let me take a picture of your bush for free." There was a homeless guy that would patrol the downtown club district giving out tickets for having too much game or looking too good. I've always wanted to do something like this with stickers that say "You're a lovely lady" or something, but it's super creepy, so I wonder if I was homeless, if I'd not give a frick enough to do it too. Outside of Daikakuya in Little Tokyo, LA, a nice homeless man approached us and told us that he will sing any song for us. Of course, we'd have to tip him. I tried not to let my boyfriend let the man do it, but failed. The man sang "Ain't No Mountain High Enough" with the most beautiful soulful voice. I wanted to tip him $10, but we only had a couple of bucks. His name is something like Octo something. He also said he's on YouTube. He had a sign that said, "Hungry hungry hobos," and I laughed, so I gave him a few bucks. Real world upvote. Guy tried to offer me pimping lessons for some spare change. I wasn't going to take advice from a broke pimp, but I listened and gave him change anyway. I didn't really understand half the crap he was saying, but damned if it wasn't entertaining. Slap that hoe to keep her in line. I had a homeless dude ask me for money. I told him, "All I have is a $20. He pulls out a stack of bills larger than mine and say, "That's okay, I have change." I know for a while there was basically an epidemic of homeless on the west coast. They would drift westward where the conditions improved, and then upon getting there would hear of the great Hawaii and how good they are to their bums. This would mean homeless persons saving up money specifically for a ticket to get to Hawaii to once again be homeless. In Columbus, Ohio, there's a wandering homeless guy named Henry. Henry doesn't have a sign, and he doesn't just walk up and ask for money. Henry is a poet, and refers to himself as a traveling bard. He offers his services at the cost of a voluntary donation. The guy is an absolutely brilliant poet. Name a topic, and he'll lay down some absolutely incredible poetry to it. I've been trying to get him to come to some local readings, but he claims they are too structured for his tastes. Bet that dude has some good stories. There's a guy downtown I pass on a regular basis. His sign says "Help fight homophobia." I can't help but grin every time I see it. He's also got something going on with the pigeons. Almost every time I pass by he's reading a book or something, and the pigeons are surrounding him. There's usually a few perched on him. Ottawa. A homeless gent said he'd give me a hot tip for $1, so I, being naturally curious, paid his consulting fee and asked for his insider info. He advised me not to go down the alley I was headed towards because some badass M were hustling people that walked through. For $1, that was a dang good tip. Hustling them for $1. One day while I was headed to lunch, I, a 20-something male with other 20-somethings, passed a beggar holding a cardboard sign that read, "While I need beer." On the way back, I walked past him just as an elderly couple was walking by in the other direction. The beggar was now holding a sign that read, "I'm a homeless Vietnam veteran. Please donate some spare change so that I can feed my family." His cardboard sign had two sides, and he flipped it over depending on the demographic of person walking by. Marketing 101. Know your demographic. Hobra is doing it right. I was once driving with some friends, and there were two homeless guys at the stoplight. One of them had a sign that said "Kill me." He handed his sign to his friend, and went and laid down in front of my car as his friend laughed his butt off and started encouraging us to do it. We had just come from Subway, so we gave him our leftovers and some money. Not sure if actually suicidal or just brilliant. I saw a guy in San Diego with a sign that said, "Atheist, will convert for money." There were 4 or 5 people standing around him, all arguing with each other. I'd make a sign with a running tally for every religion. NYC, right? He's been fundraising for the United Negro Pizza Fund for at least a decade now. If we're thinking of the same guy. Great line. I've given him a $5. I was in New Orleans. Guy came up and said, "I'll bet you $1 I can guess where you got them shoes." Eventually I agreed, and my agreement was instantly followed with, "You got them shoes on your feet. Show me the money." Fair enough. Gave him the $1. Street punk girl circa 2001 outside Mary's Club in downtown Portland, or spare $1 to bail my dead grandmother out of purgatory? Okay, I'll be that guy. I don't get this one. I walked past a homeless man who said, "Wow lady, if I had a hat, I'd tip it." I bought that man a freaking hat and a big butt sandwich. Flattery will get you so far with me. That's a classy compliment. Gentlemen, take note. When in New York, this guy approached me and made a deal that if he could make me laugh, then I would help him out with some money. I agreed. He says the new Justin Bieber album came out today, so did all the guys that bought it. I found that hysterical and gave him a 20. There was a guy in Boston who did awesome Zippo lighter tricks. There was another guy who told great jokes. I generally gave those guys some money because they entertained me. I also usually tip street musicians. Good for you for tipping street musicians. My boyfriend busks for a living, and when he brings home a good chunk of change, I'm so thankful he can buy the milk for once. I ran into a homeless man who looked just like Samuel L. Jackson. He was completely aware he looked like him and quoted his lines for money. About a month later I ran into a well-dressed man who was supposedly homeless. We shot the crap for about an hour. Eventually my curiosity got the better of me and I asked him why he dressed so well. He told me he used a portion of the money he would get to take his clothes to the cleaners because people respect a well-dressed man. Before we parted ways, he dropped a VIP card to the Hustler Club in NYC. I picked it up for him and he told me to keep it because he hasn't been able to go there ever since his daughter started stripping there. Well, that was kinda depressing. There is some beggar that sits at a specific intersection, and everyone knows him. If you talk to him, he'll just have a fun conversation with you till the light turns green. Crazy part is that when my baseball team held a car wash to get new uniforms, we stood at that intersection holding signs, and the beggar donated money. I love that guy. I know what you mean. One time some friends and I sat downtown in a spot that was normally occupied by the homeless. This homeless lady came up to us and offered us some of the food she had just purchased from the store across the street. I was amazed at how someone so in need could be so generous herself. TLDR. Homeless people are generous. Back in 2008, there was a homeless guy who had a sign saying, "I'm just like Obama. I want change." I laughed and gave him $5. Saw a guy who bellowed Leroy Jenkins on demand. Gave him a good amount of money but was mildly worried if he was just gonna use that to renew his WoW subscription and end up back there. WoW addictions are sadly a real thing. Can you help me put a down payment on a cheeseburger? But that guy is a jerk. He chased me down one day to give me heck about my baseball cap. Apparently the Cubs lost their game the night before. I was walking out of the train, and a guy who was there every day dropped a funny one on us today. I also take credit. Don't hesitate. Couldn't stop laughing. I went to a small club to see a friend's band, and outside there was a homeless man with a bike. It was a small BMX bike, but had a rigid metal ring around him bike, lengthwise, so he was inside of it. I think he actually had a harness. He'd tell people if he got enough money he'd show them what it was for. After he got about $50 he rode out into the street between stopped lanes of cars, pedaled as fast as he could and then braked hard with his front wheel. Man could do somersaults on his bike. Worth the $10 I contributed. I had one guy ask for money for a vasectomy. There's a guy in downtown Vancouver, BC who has a sign that says smile if you masturbate. Another guy has a sign that says something like zombie apocalypse coming. Need money for supplies. One girl had a sign that said hugs $1. I didn't have a dollar, but she gave me a free hug. She was in the same spot a few weeks later, so I gave her a few dollars, the dollar plus interest. A guy in downtown Montreal once refused to take the $20 I was trying to give him, because no, sweetie, you're too drunk. I once gave a guy a bunch of popcorn in his cup. I was very drunk. Apparently I also kissed his cheek, but I don't remember that part. I had a homeless girl buy me coffee and play cards with me for a few hours. I once sat next to a guy for about an hour. His sign said meow 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 meow, so I yelled at everyone who passed that they should give this guy money because he speaks fluent cat. At one of the Montreal meetups, we took a group picture with the homeless guy who'd been on the front page of Reddit recently. TLDR. Drunk giraffe really likes homeless people. You sound like a fun person to be around. I was at a Red Wings game once and an older, black homeless man was waiting on the corner singing I need a beer. Gimme a Detroit beer because I'm black, I'm black, I'm black. Always good times walking through Detroit. Detroit homeless are the best homeless. I was having a smoke outside a bar one night when a homeless guy came up to me and gave me a long-winded speech about the severe social disorder he suffered from. He explained how it was extremely debilitating and prevented him from thriving in our modern society. He then told me his social disorder was called poverty and said if I gave him $1, I'd be contributing toward the ending of this crippling disorder. I gave him a few bucks and a cigarette and he sang me Californication by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. In my town, panhandlers hang out at the exits of the highways. A week ago I was exiting the highway and there was a lady with a prosthetic leg and a sign that said, "On last leg, please help." I'll never forget how clever that was. One man has a sign that says, "I'm pregnant." Another says, "Need money for beer and weed. I have small penis disease." They make more money on a weekend than I do in a week. Coming out of Penn Station, this really charming beggar came up to my fiancée and I and asked for change. He kept telling me I was pretty and asking when you gonna marry her? Why aren't you already married to her? I gave him a few dollars for being suave as frick. Hours and hours later, after walking around NYC all day long, we made our way back to Penn Station and the same guy waved and smiled at us. Being clever works, but so does flattery. On the opposite end of things, a good way to not get any money from me is to get on the tube in London and proclaim that you're not robbing anyone. Not here to make any threats, because it makes me feel like you're going to shoot up the place and it makes everyone on the train uncomfortable. I'd really like dress a panhandler as Mario. Give him a sign that reads princess captured. Need coins for rescue attempt, and then compare his daily take with his previous average. For science, of course. I saw a homeless guy arguing with some other homeless guys who were drunk. They were hassling him for standing too close to them in front of the liquor store. The non-drunk homeless guy, Ted, from Michigan, "I hope your family finds you, bro," had a sign that read, "I don't drink, I just want some weed and a sandwich." Tossed him a 10 spot, gave him a hug. Living in LA, seen a couple of good ones. I think my favorite is this one guy who stands on the side of the freeway entrance with a sign that has 3 layers. First layer of cardboard has a giant smiley face and says "have a good day." Then he flips it up periodically, revealing the second layer which says "anything will help." On occasion he'll see an attractive woman, and then and only then does he flash the third layer, "Hey there pretty lady," followed with a pretty creepy wink. He did it to my couple one time and I cracked up. The only one that has ever worked on me was spare any change, casually carry on walking, that's okay, have a nice day. I stopped and went back and gave him some, with which he said God bless you. It's called manners. The way I see it, if they're asking for money in a novel or entertaining way, they're not really beggars, they're street performers. They are providing a free service, entertainment, in exchange for the possibility of receiving tips. There is, fundamentally, no difference between a guy who asks you to donate to the United Negro Pizza Fund and a guy playing the violin with his case left open. Never mind the obvious difference in skill. On the other hand, these two examples are distinct from a person who does nothing or even hassles you for cash. Providing a service in exchange for money is successfully attempting to participate in society in a way that simply begging is not. TLDR. Beggars who make you laugh aren't beggars, they're performers. I tip street performers. Future me thanks you for putting $5 in my guitar case. Not mine, a friend's. Story of a homeless busker. This guy had a small, cheap keyboard and was playing it, just rocking out on this cheap piece of crap. But here's the thing, this guy had nothing below the kneecaps and nothing below the elbows. He was just wailing on the keyboard and it sounded pretty good. Guy got a 20. Saw a homeless guy with a sign that read need money for pee and beer. It's not like I'm doing anything else with my day. You have to give up change for that kind of honesty. My father and I were on our way to my playoff hockey game some years ago and were stuck in traffic at a really long red light. Two homeless men were walking past the cars, holding signs and obviously asking for money. One of the hobos knocked on my father's window and asked for money. On a side note, my dad is one sarcastic butthole. He is fair and just, but on a shat nonetheless. Well, my dad told him he would give each of them $10 if they worked for it. The homeless men gave him the intrigued but skeptical stink eye. My father told them that if they each did 25 jumping jacks and 20 push-ups before the light turned green they would get the money. So in front of about 50 cars full of people and pedestrians walking around and staring, these two homeless men start flailing about and then drop to their hands and fire off push-ups like they're auditioning to be the backup workout guys in a motherfricking Tabo DVD. Simultaneously, everyone watching this hobo Olympics starts to clap and cheer. Even though they didn't finish before the green light, my dad gave each of them $20 and thanked them for being good sports. Completely out of breath, they smiled from ear to ear and thanked him. As we drove off with cars honking and people giving my dad thumbs up, he leaned over and told me that no matter the stature of a man's life, he must always work to get what he wants. No person deserves to just get what they want without trying and reaching for it. I come from a rich family and always had more than I needed or wanted. My first job was really just something to do in the summer. By the end of the summer, I had quite a bit of money. I convinced my sister that we should give it away, but she didn't want to just donate it. We came up with a plan. We sat down next to a homeless person who looked more or less sane sober and asked them to tell us a story, and if it was good we would give them $20. We gave it to everyone who made a good attempt, even if the story bored us. If anyone likes, I will type up what I remember of some of them. Definitely like to hear some hobo stories. Homeless man with a guitar asked for a donation to play me a song. Asked him if he could play the Beatles. He played Black Bad flawlessly. Gave him a $20. Well worth it. There was a guy in San Francisco who would leave a sign that said, "Bushman buy some bushes," and scare people who walked by or checked it out. Those people would subsequently stay to watch other people get scared. You get more money, and a crowd of people trying to act natural. Bum, you wanna hear a joke? Me and brother, yeah sure. Bum, how do you know when you've been to a gay barbecue? Me and brother. Bum, all the hot dogs taste like shit. $5 each. Right there. I don't get it. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.